The other day, I was looking at some of my material on wilderness remote first aid that I used to instruct. It just happened to be in a box that I was moving around. And I remember back to those days where there was a really important concept that I shared with people is this notion of staying found versus staying lost. And it sparked in me is our mentors, what does it mean to stay found as a mentor in a mentoring in the workplace program? Because it's possible that sometimes mentors, and I've had conversations with people and they say, well, my mentor seems to have disappeared for a while. And they use excuses like, well, I've had so much to do, and well, you couldn't return my email or phone call, let me know. Like, it's sort of like they got lost in the workplace. And so this sparked this question, what does it mean to stay found as a mentor? I thought, can we explore that? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that one.
It actually comes back to one of our action outcomes statements with regards to presence. And so to be found, I need to be present. And so for a lot of the, it's presence, but it's also commitment as well. So I think we could take a look at, the action outcome statements, and we could probably find very easily half a dozen that would help us better understand what it means to be found.
Yeah. Well, there is a sequence that I came up with, which is set up, step forward, stay found, share wisdom, shine light. I tend to work with fives. And it was a presentation that I made once about, okay, you've got to set things up. So as a mentor, you've got to set things up. And then what you got to do is step forward. In other words, okay, we're going to start this. Let's start stepping into this and moving forward. And we may not always know where we're going. But as a mentor, and this is the story being built around mentoring, is I got to stay found. I got to stay present, committed, self-aware to what's going on, all the different things that are taking place, so that I don't give the mentee some reason to go, I think I'm going to close this down because you're not around. I'm going to close this down because you're not. That's almost poetry. The next piece is to share the wisdom, right? So yes, lived experience, I share my wisdom. And shine light is here's the light, I'm shining it. It doesn't mean that I'm spotlighting and this is where we must go. Is that have you thought about this, or have you thought about this, and right, and working it from there. And therefore the stay found was sort of like the linchpin of all that. And then I went back into my own stories, and I went, did I ever have anyone that seemed to have gotten lost? One of my mentors did, and that would have been my fourth mentor. Got a little lost on me. It ended up is that it curtailed and closed that arrangement down, down because they totally got lost in what was going on. And it ended up not a pretty picture, but it was one of the ones. So I still thank that person for mentoring me about understanding all of that part of it. But I've been fortunate not to have mentors lost. And I certainly, commitment, presence, those words, I'm always present when I can be to stay found. I would think you are too, as knowing you and your deep practice, you stay found.
And I do a number of things. So obviously, writing the articles, working with you on some of the videos, those are all tools that I can use in order to stay found. So at least, and it comes from, I look at it from the aspect of a thought leadership perspective, is the more that we as effective or extraordinary mentors, the more that we can, number one, get material out to share our lived experience, wisdom, and knowledge, the more the more we become recognized as thought leaders, and the more that we stay found versus somebody that is not in that particular space at all.
So I think if we find ourselves as a mentor going, I'm just not being present here, that might be a good reason to close down the arrangement. And if we find the mentee, okay, let's do the flip side. If we can't find the mentee, right, because they're not staying found either, it might be a good reason to close down the mentoring arrangement as well. So it sort of goes both ways.
Yeah, and then I think that's where our reflective process kicks in, is we need to ask ourselves what went well, what didn't go well, and what are we going to do different next time so that we don't end up in that same situation.
Yes. Yeah, staying found, it's really important, really important. I know even in the wilderness first aid storyline, one of the scenarios I created was a person wandered off. But what direction did they go? Did they go north, east, west, south, right? Wintertime, it was a little easier than when I did the summer one. So the notion being is sometimes you get clues that they've walked off and the direction they've gone, and maybe you can find them and bring them back and help them stay found, which is the same thing as retrieving them, bringing them back to the central point in wilderness remote first aid. But sometimes in search and rescue, you find the person not alive, right? I think from a mentoring point of view, they're not engaged. They've gone somewhere else, but they didn't have the courtesy to shut it down, right? From a mentee perspective. So from a mentor perspective, I think we're both suggest don't get to a point where you're lost, haven't let the mentee know anything. You've got to stay found. If you need to, close it down because it's not working. It's better to do it that way.
Yeah, and is it a search and rescue or a search and recovery?
Great point. Yeah, let's get it to the point we don't have to do either of those.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mentoring story here for the mentors. Let's not get it to a point that we're using metaphors like search and rescue, search and recovery, is that we're actually in our conversation and we are being courteous to each other and working at discovering, exploring, shaping this notion of the relationship and the arrangement. So yeah, well, thanks for that. And again, I picked up that box. There was the wilderness remote first aid, and on the top of it was staying found with that 5-piece from a first aid perspective. So thank you for joining me on that little journey. So thanks. Thanks for watching the video. We have an ask of you. Make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell beside subscribe so you can receive more notifications of the videos that we're loading up, and like the video, and especially if you could comment your insights. We would enjoy learning from you. Take care.